On the hearth the fire is red. Beneath the roof there is a bed, but not yet weary are our feet. Still round the corner we may meet a sunken tree or a standing stone that none have seen but we alone. Tree and flower and leaf and grass, let them pass, let them pass. Hill and water under sky, pass them by, pass them by. Still round the corner there may wait a new road or a secret gate, and though we pass them by today, tomorrow we may come this way and take the hidden paths that run towards the moon or to the sun. Apple, thorn and nut and sloe, let them go, let them go. Sand and stone and pool and dell, fare you well, fare you well. Home is behind, the world ahead, and there are many paths to tread, through shadows to the edge of night, until the stars are all alight. Then world behind and home ahead, we'll wander back to home and mist and twilight, cloud and shade, away shall fade, away shall fade. Fire and lamp and meat and bread, and then to bed, and then to bed. The leaves were long, the grass was green, the hemlock umbels tall and fair, and in the glade a light was seen of stars in shadow shimmering. Tanuviel was dancing there to music of a pipe unseen, and light of stars was in her hair and in her raiment glimmering. There Beren came from mountains cold, and lost he wandered under leaves, and where the elven river rolled, he walked alone and sorrowing. He peered between the hemlock leaves, and saw in wonder flowers of gold upon her mantle and her sleeves, and her hair like shadow following. enchantment healed his weary feet, that over hills were doomed to roam, and forth he hastened strong and fleet, and grasped at moonbeams glistening. Through woven woods in elven home she lightly fled on dancing feet, and left him lonely still to roam in the silent forest listening. He heard their oft flying sound of feet as light as linden leaves, or music dwelling underground, the hidden hollows quavering. Now withered lay the hemlock sheaves, and one by one with sighing sound, whispering fell the beechen leaves in the wintry woodland wavering. He sought her ever wandering far, where leaves of years were thickly strewn, by light of moon and ray of star, in frosty heavens shivering. Her mantle glinted in the moon, as on the hilltop high and far she danced, and at her feet was strewn a mist of silver quivering. When winter passed, she came again, and her song released the sudden spring, like rising lark and falling rain, and melting water bubbling. He saw the elven flowers spring about her feet, and healed again he longed by her to dance and sing upon the grass untroubling. Again she fled, but swift he came to Nuviel, to Nuviel. He called her by her elvish name, and there she halted, listening. One moment stood she, and the spell his voice laid on her barren came, and doom fell on to Nuviel, that in his arms lay glistening. As Beren looked into her eyes, within the shadows of her hair, the trembling starlight of the skies, he saw their mirrored shimmering. To Nuviel, the elven fair, immortal maiden, elven wise, about him cast her shadowy hair, and arms like silver glimmering. Long was the way that fate them bore, o'er stony mountains cold and grey, through halls of iron and darkling door, and woods of nightshade marvelous. The sundering seas between them lay, and yet at last they met once more, and long ago they passed away in the forest singing sorrowless. The world was young, the mountains green, no stain yet on the moon was seen. No words were laid on stream or stone when Durin woke and walked alone. He named the nameless hills and dells, he drank from yet untasted wells. He stooped and looked in Mirrormere, and saw a crown of stars appear as gems upon a silver thread above the shadow of his head. The world was fair, the mountains tall, in elder days, before the fall of mighty kings in Nargothrond and Gondolin, who now beyond the western seas have passed away. The world was fair in Durin's day. A king he was on carven throne, in many pillared halls of stone, with golden roof and silver floor, and runes of power upon the door. The light of sun and star and moon in shining lamps of crystal hewn, undimmed by cloud or shade of night, there shone forever fair and bright. Their chisel clove and graver wrote, their forged was blade and bound was hilt. The delver mined, the mason built, their beryl, pearl and opal pale, and metal rods like fish's mail. Buckler and corselet, axe and sword, and shining spears were laid in hoard. Unwearied then were Durin's folk, beneath the mountains music woke. The harper's heart, the minstrel sang, and at the gates the trumpets rang. The world is grey, the mountains old, the forge is fire, is ashen cold. No harp is rung, no hammer falls, the darkness dwells in Durin's halls. The shadow lies upon his tomb in Moria, in Khazad-dûm, but still the sunken stars appear in dark and windless Mirrormere. There lies his crown in water deep, till Durin wakes again from sleep. The shadows where the Mewlips dwell are dark and wet as ink, and slow and softly rings their bell as in the slime you sink. You sink into the slime who dare to knock upon their door, while down the grinning gargoyles stare and noisome waters pour. Beside the rotting river strand, the drooping willows weep. Gloomily the gore crows stand croaking in their sleep. Over the Murloc mountains, a long and weary way, in a mouldy valley where the trees are grey, by a dark pool's borders, without wind or tide, moonless and sunless, the Mewlips hide. The cellars where the Mewlips sit are deep and dank and cold, with single sickly candle lit, and there they count their gold. Their walls are wet, their ceilings drip, their feet upon the floor go softly with a squish flap flip as they sidle to the door. They peep out slyly through a crack, their feeling fingers creep, and when they've finished, in a sack your bones they take to keep. Beyond the Murloc mountains, a long and lonely road, through the spider shadows and the marsh of toad, and through the wood of hanging trees and the gallows weed, you go to find the Mewlips, and the Mewlips feed. When evening in the Shire was grey, his footsteps on the hill were heard. Before the dawn he went away, on journey long without a word. From Wilderland to western shore, from northern waste to southern hill, through dragon lair and hidden door, and darkling woods he walked at will. With dwarf and hobbit, elves and men, with mortal and immortal folk, with bird on bough and beast in den, in their own secret tongues he spoke. Deadly sword, a healing hand, a back that bent beneath its load, a trumpet voice, a burning brand, a weary pilgrim on the road. A lord of wisdom throned he sat, swift in anger, quick to laugh, an old man in a battered hat, who leaned upon a thorny staff. He stood upon the bridge alone, and fire and shadow both defied. His staff was broken on the stone. In Khazad-dûm his wisdom died. When spring unfolds the beechen leaf, and sap is in the bough, when light is on the wildwood stream, and wind is on the brow, when stride is long and breath is deep, and keen the mountain air, come back to me, and say my land is fair. When spring is come to garth and field, and corn is in the blade, when blossom like a shining snow is on the orchard laid, when shower and sun upon the earth with fragrance fill the air, I'll linger here and will not come, because my land is fair. When summer lies upon the world, and in a noon of gold, beneath the roof of sleeping leaves, the dreams of trees unfold, when woodland halls are green and cool, and wind is in the west, come back to me, and say my land is best. When summer warms the hanging fruit, and burns the berry brown, when straw is gold and ear is white, and harvest comes to town, when honey spills and apple swells, the wind be in the west, I'll linger here beneath the sun, because my land is best. When winter comes, the winter wild, that hill and wood shall slay, when trees shall fall and starless night devour the sunless day, when wind is in the deadly east, then in the bitter rain, I'll look for thee and call to thee, I'll come to thee again. When winter comes and singing ends, when darkness falls at last, when broken is the barren bough, and light and labour past, I'll look for thee and wait for thee until we meet again. Together we will take the road beneath the bitter rain. Together we will take the road that leads into the west, and far away we'll find a land where both our hearts may rest. When the moon was new and the sun young, of silver and gold the gods sung. In the green grass they silver spilled, and the white waters they with gold filled. Ere the pit was dug, or hell yawned, ere dwarf was bred, or dragon spawned, there were elves of old, and strong spells under green hills and hollowed dells. They sang as they wrought many fair things, and the bright crowns of the elf kings. But their doom fell, and their song waned, by iron hewn and by steel chained. Greed that sang not, nor with mouth smiled, in dark holes their wealth piled, graven silver and carven gold, over elven home the shadow rolled. There was an old dwarf in a dark cave, to silver and gold his fingers clave. With hammer and tongs and anvil stone, he worked his hands to the hard bone. And coins he made, and strings of rings, and thought to buy the power of kings. But his eyes grew dim, and his ears dull, and the skin yellow on his old skull. Through his bony claw, with a pale sheen, the stony jewels slipped unseen. No feet he heard, though the earth quaked, when the young dragon his thirst slaked. And the stream smote at his dark door, the flames hissed on the dank floor, and he died alone. In the red fire, his bones were ashes in the hot mire. There was an old dragon on the grey stone, his red eyes blinked as he lay alone. His joy was dead, and his youth spent. He was knobbed and wrinkled, and his limbs bent. In the long years to his gold chain, in his heart's furnace the fire waned. To his belly slime, gems stuck thick, silver and gold he would snuff and lick. He knew the place of the least ring, beneath the shadow of his black wing. Of thieves he thought on his hard bed, and dreamed that on their flesh he fed. Their bones crushed and their blood drank, his ears drooped and his breath sank. Mail rings rang, he heard them not. A voice echoed in his deep grot. A young warrior with a bright sword called him forth to defend his hoard. His teeth were knives, and of horn his hide, but iron tore him, and his flame died. An old king on a high throne, his white beard lay on knees of bone. His mouth savoured neither meat nor drink, nor his ears song. He could only think of his huge chest with carven lid, where pale gems and gold lay hid. In secret treasury in the dark ground, its strong doors were iron bound. The swords of his thanes were dull with rust, his glory fallen, his rule unjust. His halls hollow and his bowers cold, but king he was of elvish gold. He heard not the horns in the mountain pass, he smelt not the blood on the trodden grass. But his halls were burned, his kingdom lost, pit his bones were tossed. There is an old hoard in a dark rock, forgotten behind doors none can unlock. That grim gate no man can pass, on the mound grows the green grass. There sheep feed, and the lark soar, and the wind blows from the seashore. The old hoard the night shall keep, while earth waits and the elves sleep. Look, there is Calon, an island good to land upon, although 'tis rather bare. Come, leave the sea and let us run, or dance, or lie down in the sun. See, gulls are sitting there. Beware! Gulls do not sink, there they may sit or strut and drink. Their part it is to tip the wink if anyone should dare upon that isle to settle, or only for a while to get relief from sickness or the wet, or maybe boil a kettle. Foolish folk who land on him, and little fires proceed to trim, and hope perhaps for tea. It may be that his shell is thick, he seems to sleep, but he is quick, and floats now in the sea with guile. And when he hears their tapping feet, or faintly feels the sudden heat, with smile he dives, and promptly turning upside down, he tips them off and deep they drown, and lose their silly lives to their surprise. Be wise! There are many monsters in the sea, but none so perilous as he, old horny Calon, whose mighty kindred all have gone. The last of the old turtle fish, so if to save your life you wish, then I advise pay heed to sailors' ancient laws that put on no uncharted shore. Or better still, your days at peace on Middle-earth in mirth fulfill. There was a man who dwelt alone, as day and night went past. He sat as still as carven stone, and yet no shadow cast. The white owls perched upon his head beneath the winter moon. They wiped their beaks and thought him dead under the stars of June. There came a lady clad in grey, in the twilight shining. One moment she would stand and stay, her hair with flowers entwining. He woke as had he sprung of stone, and broke the spell that bound him. He clasped her fast, both flesh and bone, and wrapped her shadow round him. Then nevermore she walks her ways, by sun or moon or star. She dwells below, where neither days nor any nights there are. But once a year, when caverns yawn and hidden things awake, they dance together then till dawn, and a single shadow make. Through Rowan, over fen and field, where the long grass grows, the west wind comes walking, and about the walls it goes. What news from the west, O wandering wind, do you bring to me tonight? Have you seen Boromir the Tall, by moon or by starlight? I saw him ride over 7 streams, over waters wide and grey. I saw him walk in empty lands until he passed away into the shadows of the north. I saw him then no more. The north wind may have heard the horn of the son of Denethor. O Boromir, from the high walls westward I looked afar, but you came not from the empty lands where no men are. From the mouths of the sea the south wind flies, from the sandhills and the stones. The wailing of the gulls it bears, and at the gate it moans. What news from the south, O sighing wind, do you bring to me at eve? Where now is Boromir the fair? He tarries and I grieve. Ask not of me where he doth dwell, so many bones there lie. On the white shores and the dark shores, under the stormy sky. So many have passed down Anduin to find the flowing sea. Ask of the north wind news of them, the north wind sends to me. O Boromir, beyond the gate, the seaward road runs south. But you came not with the wailing gulls from the grey sea's mouth. The north wind rides and past the roaring falls, and clear and cold about the tower its loud horn calls. What news from the north, O mighty wind, do you bring to me today? What news of Boromir the bold, for he is long away. Beneath Amon Hen I heard his cry, there many foes he fought. His cloven shield, his broken sword, they to the water brought. His head so proud, his face so fair, his limbs they laid to rest. And Rauros, golden Rauros falls, for him upon its breast. O Boromir, the tower of God shall ever northward gaze. To Rauros, golden Rauros falls, until the end of days. land once, you and I, once we wandered there. In the long days now long gone by, a dark child and a fair. Was it on the paths of firelight thought, in winter cold and wide, or in the blue spun twilight hours of little early tucked up beds in drowsy summer night, that you and I in sleep went down to meet each other there? Your dark hair on your white nightgown, and mine was tangled fair. We wandered shyly hand in hand, small footprints in the golden sand, and gathered pearls and shells in pails, while all about the nightingales were singing in the trees. We dug for silver with our spades, and caught the sparkle of the seas, then ran ashore to green-lit glades, and found the warm and winding lane that now we cannot find again between tall whispering trees. Neither night nor day, an ever eve of gloaming light, when first there glimmered into sight the little house of play. New built it was, yet very old, white and thatched with straws of gold, and pierced with peeping lattices that looked toward the sea. Our own children's garden plots were there, our own forget-me-nots, red daisies, cress and mustard, and radishes for tea. There all the borders trimmed with box were filled with favourite flowers, with flocks, with lupins, pinks and hollyhocks beneath the red may tree. And all the gardens full of folk that their own little language spoke, but not to you and me. For some had silver watering cans and watered all their gowns, or sprayed each other. Some laid plans to build their houses, little towns, and dwellings in the trees. And some were clambering on the roof, some crooning lonely and aloof, some dancing round the fairy rings, all garlanded in daisy strings, while some upon their knees before a little white-robed crowned with marigold, would sing their rhymes of long ago. But side by side a little pair, with heads together, mingled hair, went walking to and fro. Still hand in hand, and what they said, they're waking far